I kind of liked how everything went earlier today with no headphones in. So we're doing it a second time. And if the whole thing goes to hell, then the whole thing goes to hell. In any event, welcome, everybody. Good day to you all. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, and I'm your host, Dan Besbris. You can find me on social media at Dan Besbris. You can locate our network feed at Old Man Squad, and we are also Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. I would again insist upon you guys finding me over on Twitter. I know it's a hellscape, but it's the fastest, most efficient way to transmit fantasy basketball information. It's where all the news breaks. If you're not on there, you are going to lose your league to somebody who is. So again, get over there. Just follow the bare minimum, and me being one of them, of course, at Dan Besbris. Hit that like button if you're watching. Subscribe. I know you guys are still out there. You're catching our stuff. It's time to subscribe and drop a 5-star review. And of course, Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball is brought to you by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they're happening. That's pretty cool. Which the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, the UFC, and MMA. They've got it. Head to Bet Online today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. A Bet Online. The game starts here. Today, we are talking hot and cold. It's the first edition of Hot and Cold. I've never done a show like this before. If you guys like it, I would love that positive feedback because I don't have to do these shows every week. I just think this one struck me as kind of a fun one. And the reason is, it's not just interesting to see who's hot and who's cold, but that in and of itself is kind of fun. I believe that we can use this information to construct trade situations. And they're not always going to work. Sometimes, as we talked about, we're 2 weeks into the season right now, and a lot of player values are still tied to where they were drafted. But the farther you get away from your fantasy draft, the more the player value is actually tied to what their actual rank is or how much publicity they're getting for being hot or cold. So let's go through it because I have like 42 names I want to talk about, meaning we don't really have time to screw around here at the front end. 26 guys are flying up the board. 26. They are organized by who moved the farthest, not by what their final rank is. So we're going to go through and we're going to talk about how far they've jumped. And that's sort of it's a big thing. It's a big thing, guys. It's a big thing. First name on the list is Chris Paul. Wow, what a jump he took. Chris Paul jumped 115 slots to number 42, from 157 to 42. He's been incredible over the last week. He's looked great. I don't think he's going to continue the pace he's been on the last week, but I see no reason why Chris Paul can't be a colossal draft day value. And I know it's crazy to think, but Old Man Squad, of all places, we should have been even higher on him. How's that possible? Hard to know, because old dudes like Chris Paul, they're part of our DNA. And I thought I had him at a pretty good spot. I had him like in with the guys that I had going in like the mid to late 80s range. So any time he fell to 100, I usually scooped him up. But we should have been more aggressive, it looks like. He's settled in great. They've lost younger guys to injury already, which means that his role is going to have to be bigger, whether or not he wants it to be. And I do think that he'll probably have to score less as Vassell comes back, and then a month and a half from now when Jeremy Sohan returns. But in the meantime, there's a lot of Chris Paul going on. OG Anunoby, the next name on the list. Again, reminder, these are categorized by who moved the most. OG jumped 108 rank slots from 176 to 68 with a big week. The Knicks have all settled in. The starters are all doing their thing. OG is in a good place. This, to me, feels relatively sustainable. I don't think the fears with him was ever really about whether or not he could have fantasy value, but about whether he can stay healthy. So this is a pretty good one. As we're moving through this in kind of a lightning round mode, I want to try, and I'll do my best to remember to do this, but to offer the quick hit on, is it a sell moment or is it a ride moment? With Chris Paul, it's a ride moment. You're not going to get enough for him. With Anunoby, I think it's actually more of a sell moment because you want to catch him before any part of his body implodes, meaning where'd you draft him? 75, 80, 85, something like that. Try to get incremental gains. See if you can get someone that's in that 65 range, and that would probably be a win. Jalen Williams jumped from 142 to 37, and a lot of people yelling at me stopped yelling over the last week because he's been really, really good. This is a ride moment for Jalen Williams because, frankly, I think he's going to get better than 37. What is he over just the last week alone? Well, let's pull that up now so that we can all look at it. He's number 10 over the last week. Number 10. So, yes, obviously that's a sell high, but overall, it's a ride. RJ Barrett jumped 89 spots to number 90. This is a sell moment. I know. You guys are going to yell at me. Oh, Dan, RJ Barrett, he's just better with Toronto. Guys, the Raptors are missing 4 rotation players. Not that RJ's not going to have a big role on that team, but this is like what you all tried to convince me of with Jalen Brunson. Brunson was taking 25, 26 shots a game when the Knicks had nobody around him. They just don't need him to take that many shots anymore. That's not to say that Brunson's not going to have an okay year. He's ranked 70th right now, but that's mostly because his field goal percent is a little bit low, and the steals are at half, and he hasn't blocked a shot yet. But he's not going to get to number 20 because he's taking 20 shots a game instead of 25. They don't need him to take 25 shots anymore. It's the same thing with Barrett. When guys come back, I don't care what you think of his game, he's going to do less. Bam Adebayo, 81 slot jump up to number 47. This is a ride moment with Adebayo. Jalen Brunson, who we just talked about, jumped 81 slots also to number 70. And this is a ride moment with Brunson. He was obviously a buy low at 150, but nobody was going to part with Brunson for cheap after 1 week. Bub Carrington up 190 to 118. 72 is the jump for him. That's a ride moment for Bub. You're not going to get enough for him anyway. Jakob Poeltl up 67 slots from 107 to 40. It's a little bit of a sell time. As much as I love Jakob Poeltl, by the way, I want you guys to, again, let's do the age-old move. It's a tradition here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Let's hold 2 thoughts in our minds at the same time. Thought number 1, Dan likes Jakob Poeltl a lot. He was a guy I ended up with in the 90s, regular 80s and 90s regularly because I had forgotten to draft enough centers, and luckily Poeltl was often still floating around at that juncture. I forget what his exact ADP was. But even if I like him, it doesn't mean I think he's going to be number 40. I thought 60 was a pretty good case scenario for Poeltl this year, and I do think that his minutes trend down if Kelly Olynyk ever comes back. His touches probably also trend down as the stars return for the Toronto Raptors. I would see if you could get a 60 range big man for Jakob. You could probably get Rudy Gobert for him right now, and I would do it. Did I not have? Oh, there's Poeltl. Yeah, sorry, I lost my place. Lou Dort. 62 slot jump from 134 to 72. I would say sell high, but I don't think you're going to get anything for him. If you can get a 100 range dude who's just going to quietly punch along at like 98 rank, I would do it. If you can't, then just ride it until the wheels come off. And they will, mind you. They will. Gradey Dick up 59 slots to number 35. This one, obviously a sell high, but nobody's fully buying on it. So the optimal move is to see if you can get a top 75 player for Gradey Dick. Odds are in your league you probably can't, but there are some out there where you can pull these types of things off. And so if you can, do it. If you can't, just play him until guys start coming back, because he's going to have a lot to do until Quickly comes back, and he'll probably have a little bit to do after that. But once Barnes is back around, then it's going to be a little tougher for him to make that elbow room. Tyrese Maxey jumped 58 slots from number 85 to 27. This is a ride moment for Maxey. He's just going to be pretty good this year, and you're not going to get something better than top 30 back for him anyway. So just enjoy it. Alex Sarr jumped 47 slots to rank 64. This is a buy moment, believe it or not, on Sarr. I think the blocks are going to come down, but everything else for him is just going to continue to trend up all season long. And so hopefully, it's probably too late to get your paws on him now. Can't get those mitts around Sarr. We tried to do that, a week and change back. But I wouldn't sell. So I guess ride is the other alternative there. Michael Porter Jr. jumped 45 slots, number 67. It's a ride moment for MPJ, especially with Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray on the shelf. There's going to be a lot of Michael Porter Jr. going on in Denver. More guys on the rise. LeBron James is the next player we've got on the list. He jumped all the way up to number 38. How many slots did he move? 43 slots for LeBron. This is a ride moment for LeBron. He's going to keep trending in that direction. We always knew LeBron was going to get himself back where he belongs. His field goal percent is a little low at the moment. Steals are also a little bit low. I expect him to continue moving up the board. John Collins up to number 43. He jumped 43 spots, so he's the rare shaved his rank in half guy on the list this year. He's a sell because Lauri Markkanen has been out, and that's going to punch a hole in it. He's still going to do more than he would have if Taylor Hendricks was around, and Hendricks is gone for the season. I would try to get 75 range for Collins. That's the target. Royce O'Neale jumped 42 slots to number 56. You're not going to be able to sell, so that's a ride. Tyrese Haliburton up to number 79, which is a start. He was 121 the week before. That's a 42-slot jump. This is a ride. Maybe even a buy low still, but I don't think you're going to be able to do it. So hang on. Josh Hart up 38 slots to number 52. This one's a little bit kind of in between. I like Josh Hart a lot, but as the Knicks, if they ever get healthy, he's not going to shoot 54%. His minutes will come down from 36. Right now, his percentages are sort of way above expected. So I would say see if you can get a top 80 guy for Hart back, and if you can't, then just play it out. Naz Reid. I like Naz Reid. He jumped 36 slots to number 51, and he's fun. He's at 15 points, 6.5 boards, 2 assists. Field goal and free throw numbers are very high for Naz right now. Those are likely to come down. But also, I would argue the steals and the blocks probably trend up for Naz. So do they cancel? Probably drifts back ever so slightly. But he was one of my big breakout leaper guys during the preseason. So I'm not selling on Naz. I don't think you're going to get a top 50 guy back. I don't think you're going to be able to get a top 60 guy back. I think you might probably not still get a top 70. And I don't want a top 80 guy back for Naz Reid because I think he can be better than that. So ride it out, baby. Let the good times roll. James Harden up 34 slots from number 52 to number 18. And you were worried. James will be fine. He's still, by the way, shooting 38% from the field with 5 turnovers a game. Harden is a top 2 fantasy play this year if you're punting field goal and turnover. I would prefer not to because in a couple of roto leagues I have him, but at least he's still a second rounder even with those things going on. Is it a buy, a sell, a ride? No, it's a ride. It's obviously a ride. Victor. First name. Last name, Wembanyama. Up 31 slots to number 4 on the board right now. Is a ride, obviously. You're not selling on Wemby. No way. Norman Powell jumped 25 slots. And I know these numbers aren't as big, but when you're near the top of the board, it's harder to move. And he moved from 59 to 34. This is a sell for Norman Powell because if there's even the remotest possibility that Kawhi Leonard shows up, Norman Powell's going to take a huge hit. Maybe not immediately because Kawhi's probably not going to play every game. He's not going to play back-to-back, so it's going to be ramp up, all that stuff if he does get himself back in the mix. Norm, you're targeting top 60 or better. Nikola Vucevic. He's number 7 right now, guys. He only jumped 21 slots, but to go from 28 to 7 is a ridiculous jump. And he's a sell, but I truly don't know what you're going to be able to get back. He's at 22 points, 11 rebounds, a block, 2 3-pointers, and 55-96 splits. Vooch is having a great year. I think if you can get top 35, top 40 back, you do it because those percentages are going to trend down. We don't know what the Bulls' plan is for this entire season. There's just a lot of stuff that for Vooch is way out over his skis. I do think there's a chance. I mean, if he has a good shooting year, he could push himself back up into that 20 to 35 range is not completely out of the question. but 7 is. So that's why I say it again. If you can get a top 40 guy, you probably do it. You aim a little higher. Aim for 30, see what you can get, or aim for 25, and then you work your way kind of slowly back down the board. Karl-Anthony Towns is up to number 9. He was another one. This was a weird one, too. Everybody was yelling at me about Cat. I had him as a second rounder. I thought it was a safe second round pick. Anyway, he jumped from number 29 to number 9. Let it ride. You're not going to get a first rounder back for him. You'd get a second rounder back, and that's where you drafted him anyway. So not a whole lot to worry about there. And just from a straight what's he doing standpoint, the only thing that I think probably tapers a little would be 12.5 rebounds. That's a really big number. The minutes are sustainable. The scoring, the threes, the assists, or the assists, the steals, the blocks, the percentages, all that stuff's pretty sustainable for Cat. It just seems like he'll probably taper off a little bit and maybe drift into the second round. But it's going to be a good year, as we all knew. There's no surprise there. Devin Booker up from 38 to 20. That's a let it ride because I think we just assume he's going to be a second rounder, so that's fine. And the final name on the hot board is DeMar DeRozan, who went from number 23 to number 8. 8 people. Kings have had a little bonus time so far this year. DeMar's averaging 38 minutes a night, which I think is second in the NBA right now. In fact, we can readjust that. Third in the NBA because Tyrese Maxey's playing 41. And then Kevin Durant, that's not sustainable. 39 minutes a game for KD, 38 for DeMar DeRozan. The Kings, by the way, have 3 of the top 6 minute per game guys. That's probably not great. Top 7? 3 of the top 7? Okay, fair enough. Anyway, that probably comes down a little bit. The 17 shots, I would hope, comes down a tiny bit. But I guess we don't know. Kings are playing fast. The other stuff is fine. 2 steals will come down. There are a lot of things with DeMar where you can point and you can say, yeah, this is probably not a sustainable number. Here's the thing, though. We've seen good DeMar DeRozan be a top 25 per game guy. It's happened, and it wasn't that long ago. Was it 3 seasons back, basically? When was DeMar in that range? He was number 26 as recently as 2021, 2022. On 28 points a game, 5 boards, 5 assists, a steal, 0.3 blocks, and 50-88 were the splits. He's not that far off from those numbers. Again, the steals are going to come down a bunch from 2 a game. That's a crazy number. He was taking 20 shots a game in that season. And if he's really only going to be at 17 shots a night, he's not going to get to that marker. So take away a full steal a night. He obviously falls a bit, but it's not crazy at all to think that DeMar could actually be ranked in the 20s on a per-game basis this season. So if you're going to try to sell on him, which you should be, you're aiming for top 35 or better. Don't go cheap on DeMar this year. Don't sell low when it could really be good enough on its own. Quick commercial break. All right, let's talk about the fallers and what that means. Here they are. Only 16 of these, so I guess we don't have to go quite as fast. Miles Bridges is your big faller of the season, week, whatever you want to call it. Yikes, down 101 slots from 93 to 194. It's been a rough go for old Miles Bridges, and it couldn't have happened to a better dude. He's scoring 11 points a game with 2 rebounds. I'm sorry, that's scoring 13 points a game. There we go. With 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, half a steal, half a block, terrible percentages, 1.4 threes. This is very clearly a buy low. As much as I don't really want Miles Bridges on my fantasy teams, if you can go get him for a adequately performing later round pick, you do it. And then you're like, well, Dan, how the hell do I find the guy that's the right match? You look for someone who was drafted around 115, that's probably putting up 70s type of numbers, and you make the swap. Tyus Jones. Yeah, that's probably worthwhile. Red hot free agent pickup Bilal Coulibaly. That probably won't get it done. Keegan Murray. Probably okay with that one. RJ Barrett. while the whole Raptors team is out. Klay Thompson. These are interesting ones. I don't think PJ Washington's going to get it done. Terry Rozier might get it done. That's an interesting name to throw out there. Andrew Wiggins. Draymond Green. I don't know how far. You're not going to get him for Lou Dort. I got bad news for you on that front. Onyeka Okongwu, perhaps. It's probably about as much as I would pay for him. Dyson Daniels, maybe. That's an interesting one. That might get it done. Anyway, it's available. It's out there. Give it a look. Can I zoom in on this at all? All right, that works. Andrew Wiggins fell this last week to number 102. Some of that was because he just had one bad ball game, and he was hurt for a little bit. But this is a let it ride. You're not buying on Wiggins. He'll probably come back up a little bit, but you're not gonna try to get him. Andre Drummond, also not a guy you want to buy on right now, especially with Embiid coming back. Everybody knows this one. Drummond, honestly, at this point, Drummond is a hard guy to even use as a plug-and-play guy, despite Embiid being out. It's weird. Nic Claxton fell from 75 to 147, which is weird because his minutes have actually been slowly ticking up the board. He's at 22 and change right now. The 35% foul shooting is truly awful, but everything else is trending the right way. So, see, again, it's that same, would I rather have between Claxton and Miles Bridges? I'd probably rather have Miles Bridges, but either way, you're probably talking about the same general outlay if you want to try to trade for these guys. That's probably what it's going to run you. Ivica Zubac, and this one is a little bit of a mirage. He fell from 48 to 120, but a lot of the issue with Zoo right now is that he has been epically bad at the free throw line. Because 35 minutes a game is more than enough for him to secure fantasy value, but right now he's a full-on punt free throw dude, averaging 17 and 13, and I don't even think if you're going to go to the guy who has Zubac's rostered and you're going to try to say, oh, let me buy low on him. And I don't even think they're going to feel like it's a buy low because it is just that one category. Cam Thomas fell from number 18 to number 86. That's a let it ride because this is down where he belongs. You'll have hot Cam Thomas. That's a second rounder. And you'll have cold Cam Thomas. That's like a top 175 guy. Such is the life of a very streaky scorer. Rui Hachimura down from 64 to 125. There's no reason to go buy on Rui. You might be able to pick him up off the wire if somebody gets bored. And by all accounts, looking at the way the Lakers are not playing defense, Jared Vanderbilt is going to get some playing time if or when he actually comes back. So this is very much a let it ride. If you have him, play him. If you don't, let that other guy play him. Rui should stay right where he is. Drew Holiday fell from 96 to 156, and this one's a little bit disconcerting. He's losing some playing time to Peyton Pritchard, and some of that's just because the Celtics can. But it's not like it's because his percentages are bad. It's basically because he hasn't done anything on defense yet. Like, Drew Holiday is a guy that we expected to be a steal and a block kind of dude, and he is about a quarter of a steal and a quarter of a block. It's just sort of an interesting little thing because the rest of his stuff is not that far off. He's at 50% shooting. The free throw is 79. He's hitting 2.5 3-pointers, but he's getting no defensive stats, which is confusing, but also it's, that's kind of part of the weirdness of the start of the season. If Drew was merely league average in steals and blocks, he'd be number 91 right now. Everything else translates fine. And so the assumption here is that at some point in the next however many games, 5 to 10 games, he's going to go on a little binge. He's going to have back-to-back games where he has 4 steals and 2 blocks or whatever. That's going to level off, and then all of a sudden he's going to be number 85. So buy low if you can on Holiday. I don't know what it's going to take to get him. That's the big question mark. If somebody drafted him, they might be thinking about dropping. So see if you can. I would offer up something less affordable than what I was putting out there for Miles Bridges and Nic Claxton. Now you're looking for a guy that might just be like hovering. Like Draymond Green might get it done. You might be able to go cheaper. You might be able to go, I don't know, you're not going to get it for a streamer. Maybe Jeremy Sohan would have gotten it done if he wasn't going to be out for 6 weeks. Maybe Bobby Portis, Jonas Valanciunas, Denny Avdia. These are guys I would consider. If those aren't going to get it done, we might have to think this one through a little bit more. Wendell Carter Jr., Karis LeVert, PJ Washington. I like PJ. Maybe don't do that one. Santi Aldama. Jalen Green fell 60 slots from 36 to 96. And again, that was just a matter of time with him because he was taking every shot on planet Earth for the Rockets, and that simply wasn't going to last forever. He's still at 19.5 shots per game. I think he's still trending down. So, nope. I'll pass. What do we got here? By the way, I sorted these in the opposite direction. It's by, no, this is still the biggest movers. It's the same thing. Derek Lively II fell from number 65 to 115. That's a 50 slot drop. I think this is actually not that far from where he finishes, which is kind of around that 100 marker. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Where the hell was I? I've lost my place. Franz Wagner fell 50. Austin Reeves also fell 50. Interestingly, all those guys dropped 50 slots. Wagner down to number 80, and that's fine. I would give up an 80 range guy to get him. But you guys know how I felt about Wagner from before the season, which is he's going in the 40s, and I said, sorry, guys, that's 20 slots too early. So I'll go get Franz if I can get him for an 80 range guy. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. Austin Reeves fell to number 69. It's a ride it out because he was never going to stay at number 19. I do think his job this year is bigger. He's nursing a little bit of a sore ankle. You're not going to be able to get him cheap enough to buy right now anyway. Jeremy Grant fell from number 32 to 76. That's just sort of the beginning of the fall for him, so you're not buying there. That's a ride it out. Jimmy Butler's a weird one. He's down from 50 to 92, but again, you can isolate the category. It's free throws. He's taking 9 a game, but he's only making 72% of them. Not only is he normally a neutral in that, usually Jimmy Butler is an intense positive in free throw shooting. So right now, if you just turned free throws off, he moves up to number 49, but that doesn't even do the whole thing justice. You've got to somehow turn Jimmy Butler into a positive in foul shooting, basically of an equal amount on the opposite side. Like he's got to go from being a medium-sized negative to a medium-sized positive. That pushes him all the way up towards that 25 range. Oh my God, if it's not construction, it's a gardener. This is the most annoying day in my neighborhood in forever. Klay Thompson fell to number 93. This is not a buy moment on Klay Thompson. This is a leave it alone. We knew he got off to a hot start because he had this whole thing to prove kind of ball game. He was, his first game was a top 20 kind of performance. He's just been steadily dropping since then. Fell to number 58 by the end of that first week, down to number 93 by the end of the second week. Leave it alone. And finally, LaMelo Ball, who fell from number 7 to number 30. Now he's nursing a sore ankle. We don't know if that has anything to do with it. 5.4 turnovers is the big issue with Ball. I think that might be the most in the entire NBA. But the other stuff is good. 29 points, 5 boards, 6 assists. Steals are fine. Maybe you'd want a little bit more, but they're fine. Even the field goal percent is actually not that bad this year. But it's those turnovers, man. They're big. They're very high. And I'd love to see more than 5.7 assists, frankly. I'd like to see LaMelo Ball get that number up into the kind of the 7 range would be the target. 5.7 is a little lower than expected. You're not going to be able to buy on Ball because whoever has him was probably planning on kicking turnovers to the curb anyway. So let it ride. By default, that one's a let it ride. And what did we learn from all of these names? I'm not going to do a lightning round of 42 names. You guys can go back and you can hear what I've said about all of these guys. What did we learn is that things move a lot, especially early in the year. Guys you thought were amazing after 2 ball games and were celebrating turned out to not. Guys that you guys thought were dead, and many of you started trying to come for my head, which, by the way, thanks for that. That's cool. Those guys are suddenly good again. I don't have to hear anybody complaining about Jalen Williams for a little while, or Cat for a little while, or whoever. Great. Haliburton, you're on your way. Keep going. We'll get there. Harden, there were complaints about Harden. He's doing fine. Wemby, there were complaints about. People were selling Wemby. Lord have mercy. So, go make some deals, people. Take the guys I told you to buy and sell and go make some deals. Let's have some fun. 42 names on today's show. Some of them were buy lows. Some of them were sell highs. You know what? Screw it. Let's do a recap. Let's do a super fast one. But I'm not going to read every single name. I'm going to tell you of the risers, the ones that I think you guys should go and buy or sell. Sorry, my words flip-flop. The ones you should sell on, and I'll try to give some qualitative note here, is sell Chris Paul for... No, you know what? Ride it out. Ride that one out. OG, sell for top 75 for better. RJ Barrett, top 100 or better. Poeltl, top 60 or better. Lou Dort, 100 or better. Gradey Dick, 75, 80 or better. John Collins, 75 or better. Royce O'Neale, 100 or better. Josh Hart, 80 or better. Norman Powell, 50 or better. Vooch, 30 or better. And DeRozan, 30 or better. Players you should buy. Miles Bridges. Try to give up a top 90 to 100 guy for him. Nic Claxton, same thing. Zubac, again, I don't think people realize is at his current rank. Jrue Holiday, see if you can get him for a 105, 110 range kind of guy. And you can go 5 to 10 slots earlier on some of these nudes that we're talking about. Wagner, see if you can get him for a 75, 80, 85 range guy right now, because that's where he's at. And people might be a tiny bit frustrated, but maybe not. And Jimmy Butler, I mean, honestly, like if you can get him for a 50, 60 range guy, I would do it in a heartbeat. And those are your buys and sells from the 42 names covered. Those are the ones I think you have like a real window to try to make some value play on it. Like a window where you can buy or sell them. You can give up a player or whatever you're thinking here. That's not all the way to the rank where you expect that player to finish, and you can still have room to make a profit on it. Like, for example, if you were trying to sell... who do we say? RJ Barrett. Let's go. John Collins. Let's say you think he's going to finish at like 85 or 95 or whatever. I mean, and it'll be better here with Hendricks out than it would have been. You can sell him and you can try to get a top 65, 70 guy back, which is way lower than he's ranked right now, but it still creates a profit window against your projected final number. So that's the beauty of these types of sells and buys, is that you can almost split the difference between where they are, where you think they're going to be, and what you can offer up in a trade. There we go. I got that point out. It took me a second to figure out how to say it, but I got it there. This was Fantasy Basketball Hot and Cold, the first ever edition of it on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, again, let me know in the comments by hitting like, by saying stuff on Twitter, whatever. Please let me know if it was useful in any way, and that way we can continue to try to do these things. Follow on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. We'll recap a nice big Wednesday and get into some more fun stuff, more specialty shows on a much lighter Thursday card. So long for now, everybody. Enjoy the games. We'll see you later.